Do you know that you're fully in control of your life? Do you know that you're fully responsible for your life? These are the things. The reason why this conversation is important, because as we dive down this path of getting to our ideal life and growing and learning all the stuff, you know what normally knocks us off our path? What normally knocks you off your path? It's people. It's people that normally knock you off your path. It's some interactions that you start having, whether it's with your family, whether it's with your spouse, whether it's with your kids, whether it's with your coworkers, whether it's with your friends circle or your whatever it is. It's normally people that knock us off track. If you didn't have the distractions of people, loved ones, people that, right, you care about, that you're attached to, you would be on the straight and narrow. Like nothing could really knock you off because you would just be locked in and you'd be focused. But as soon as something happens in your marriage or something happens with your kids or something happens in your family or their health or something like that, it throws us off track. It gets us completely knocked off. And then it's just a matter of, well, how do we get back on track? How do we get back on track? And so what Mel is talking about, Mel Robbins talks about in this is being able to kind of take ownership of your life. Take ownership, take responsibility of your life, right? Your power comes from how you respond to things. Some of you have heard me say this before. It's one of those cliche quotes, but it's the truth. Life is 10% what happens to you, 90% how you react to it. Life is 10% what happens, 90% how you personally choose to react to it. Every one of us, because we're here, we're living a human experience, we're going to experience similar things. We're going to experience loss and grief and heartache and bad relationships and some joys and some happiness and some great moments and some right health challenges and some financial challenges and some relational things and some spiritual things. We're all going to experience the same things being here in this human experience. The question is, how do you respond to that thing? When something happens in your financial life, how do you respond to it? Is it like, oh, this always happens? Or is it, man, God, what are you trying to teach me in this? What do I need to learn? Those are two completely different responses for the same exact experience. The question is, how are you responding? Your power is in your response to things. We have this, this word in society now. Everybody's triggered by something. Oh, that's a trigger. This is a trigger. Like you get to choose what triggers you. Like you get to choose your response to a trigger. There's nothing external of you that's like, that's my trigger. And every time that happens, I do this. No, you're lazy. You're not choosing better choices of that trigger, right? Like you get to choose. You get to choose. And that's what we got to learn this year because it's people. It's the experiences that cause our thoughts to get all over the place, that cause us to react a certain way. That then, if we don't learn to control those things, leads us to a life that we don't necessarily want. You have to do this process, and I'm going to share this in our text. You have to start learning how to change your emotional response to things. So, like Mel said, you can get back the two things that you're going to need. The two most valuable things is your time and your energy. The two most valuable things in your life, the two most precious things in your life is your time and your energy. What you choose to give time to and what you choose to give your energy to will determine your outcomes in life. It'll determine if you actually do get to that life that you don't need a break from, that ideal life. Let's reflect back. What did you give your time to in 2024? What did you give most of your time to? Was it to right things that served you? Was it to things that you were trying to pour into? Was it things pouring into you? Was it on personal development? Was it on just making money? Was it on your spiritual? Like what did you give time to? Because whatever you gave time to shows what's important to you. Sometimes that's some hard preaching for people to really grasp. But when I dive in and I say, hey, if I followed you around with a camera 24 hours a day for a week, right? All 168 hours in the week. Whatever I see you're giving time to is what I know is important to you. So, what did you give time to in 2024? And what do we now need to give time to in order to get to our life that we're trying to create? And then what do you pour energy into? So many people, again, you guys know I'm in the money business. We help people transition out of the job into what entrepreneurship, into their, ideal financial life. But sometimes in that transition, when I say, hey, we need to start transitioning some of our energy into being an entrepreneur, into growing, into learning, we give our energy to our job. All of our energy goes into making a paycheck. That's why we're tired at the end of the day, right? We take Saturday, Sunday off, whatever our days off, we sleep, and then we build up all of our energy to give it back to this person that we're right trading our time for money. So wherever you choose to put your energy will also create your results, ladies and gentlemen. So these are the things we have to be mindful of if you want this year to be different than last year. And a lot of times it's going to start by controlling the two things you can control, your actions and your attitude. The responses that you have to the things that happen in life, whatever story you've told yourself about whatever the situation is that's about to occur or that has occurred, will determine what your outcome is. So can we learn how to change our emotional response? Can you learn? Because you control your emotion. You control it. You control it. I don't know how many times I got to say that, because sometimes people don't believe that they control their emotions. Like somebody could cut you off in traffic and you choose what response you have. You choose that. You might be conditioned to doing something a certain way, but you still have a choice. If somebody starts yelling at you or right treating you poorly, like you choose how to respond to that. It's not like, oh, they did this and so I had to. No, that's for middle class. That's for average thinkers that think that something external from them has to determine how they operate. You get to choose your emotional response. And in this text, 177 mental toughness secrets of the world class, this chapter talks about how to change your emotional response. I'll be honest, when I first read this, I'm like, this is weird. I'm not going to do this, right? I'm just naturally going to push back. Like, this is weird. Like, I'm not going that far to change my emotional response. And then I remember saying from one of my mentors, hey, weird, rich, normal, poor. Weird, rich, normal, poor. Anything that's really weird, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to do that. It's probably going to make you rich. It's probably going to be something that's going to be a super blessing in your life. If it's something that's normal, if it's something that everybody does, it's probably going to keep you poor. It's probably going to keep you in a place where you're getting the same exact outcomes. So here's how it says in the book to change your emotional responses. Let's read this chapter. It says, one of the most powerful tools used by the world-class performers is called the 10-step change process. It helps alter the way they respond to events outside of their control. Okay, just like Mel Robbins said, right? What takes away all your energy is responding to things that are outside of your control. When you don't have control over it and your emotions start getting crazy, and that's people, circumstances, all that stuff, you're losing losing your personal power. It says here, for example, a salesperson makes a presentation to a customer who treats the salesperson poorly and disrespectfully. The emotional response of amateurs would be anger. The pro realizes treating people disrespectfully is a classic amateur behavior. Through this 10-step change process, the performer writes down the activating event or the disrespectful customer. Next, he writes down his response. Then he decides if that response is helping or hurting. Then, next step is to decide whether his response was a rational or irrational one. Next, he examines his thought process thoroughly and identifies his ultimate response if it were to happen again. He then mentally rehearses implementing the new response. Next, he creates a written script for the new response and rehearses the new response twice daily, visually and verbally. He examines his response the next time the event occurs. If he is satisfied with the result, he has successfully transformed his response to the event. If he's not yet satisfied, he continues the process until the desired behavior change takes place. This is one of the most effective change processes of the world class, knowing it is worthless unless you use it. Are you ready to go pro yet? Imagine the potential you could have, or you could alter every major response that you encountered on a daily basis. Would that elevate you to the next level? If it says, imagine the potential if you could alter every major response you encountered on a daily basis. If you learned how to react differently to the things happening, would that take your life to the next level? Yes or no? Absolutely, it would. But that's why this process Again, little weird, a little bit on the, I don't know if I want to do that. But if you are serious about changing something, remember, you got to get comfortable being uncomfortable. This is a very uncomfortable thing. It's a little strange to be able to write this stuff down, but you got to know this is how we reprogram our mind to get different outcomes. More of the same equals more of the same. If you think it's just your willpower that when your coworker pisses you off, that you're going to be like, well, I'm just not going to say anything today. No, right? Old Seinfeld episode, right? Serenity Now. They used to say Serenity Now, right? And Kramer blows up one time. He's like, Serenity now, insanity later, right? So, like if you just keep pushing it down and being like, my willpower, I'm going to do it. One day you're going to blow up and you're going to, as the young people call it, you're going to crash out like crazy and something's going to happen. So you got to learn how to just change your emotional response to the things that are happening. Here's what it broke down in there. It just breaks it down in more of a chart. So you respond to your perception of an event. Let me go to this one so you can see how this example works. So the first thing you would do if you want to change your change how you respond to an event. Number one, you respond to your perception of an event. So like it said in that example, the client treated me like dirt, ignores me, makes me feel insignificant. Again, you can put this in your own scenario when it comes to your coworker or your spouse or your kids or whoever, because we all have people in our life, family, mom, dad, like whoever it is. We all have people in our life that trigger us to a bit, right? And that's what knocks us off track. So you respond to your perception of an event. So in this example, it was about the salesperson. The second step is decide if that response that you have is helping you or hurting you. Decide, hey, is it hurting me to feel this way or is it helping me to feel this way? Normally it's hurting you because it puts you in a bad mood. Third step is decide if your response is rational or irrational. Like, am I just really blowing this out of proportion? Or, right, is this something like that's rational? He believed it's rational because the guy was being a jerk to him, right? That's what he believed. Then it says, here's the biggest step. Examine your response in detail through metacognition. We've talked about metacognition. Are you thinking about what you're thinking about? Are you thinking about what you're thinking about? Or do you just allow every thought to come in and then you react on it? Because that's not going to get you personal power to get to the life you want in 2025. You got to know, man, am I thinking about what I'm thinking about? In this case, I'm thinking to myself, I'm only trying to do my job. He could at least be decent to me. After all, I'm a professional, right? Those are the thoughts that this person was going through. The fifth thing says, identify your ultimate response if this were to occur again. So that's where you have a choice. Like Mel Robbins said, you have a choice of saying, you know what? I'm going to not let this bother me because I know he's just a human being just like me, that he doesn't have the people skills I have. She doesn't understand, right? Like, I'm sure she's under pressure. She's having a bad day. Their response has nothing to do with me. You see, when you start taking things personally, it's about how you view that thing. You think they're doing it to you. That's because, right? That's your perception of it. But what if your perception is, oh, they're just having a bad day. That has nothing to do with me. The way that they feel has nothing to do with how I feel or how I react. That's taking back your personal power. Now, here's where it gets weird, where it says, right, you should start like identifying and mentally rehearsing and writing it down. Write down your response of next time my coworker says this to me, this is how I will respond. And you write it down and you kind of rehearse it and say it to yourself. I know, a little strange, a little weird, but if this is something that you're challenged with, like you can't seem to like avoid the triggers, you can't seem to react better in situations, you can't seem to stop letting people dictate your mood, then you might want to take this step. You might want to say, hey, the next time my spouse says this, the next time my wife does, the next time my mother does this, the next time my kid does this, the next time my coworker, this is how I'm going to choose to respond. And you reprogram yourself in order to get the results you want. Rehearse it, examine it, and do it over and over again. This is how you change. That's what we're here to do, ladies and gentlemen. We're here to change. We're not here to stay the same. We're not here to do the same things. And so if you want different results, different outcomes, you have to do different things. And this is just an example today with Mel Robbins and with, right, this chapter of you can change your emotional response. And not just can you, like you have to. You have to know life is 10% what happens. When people give you, oh, this is what's happening to me, that happens to everybody. You're not alone. The same things that you're going through, there's a million up, there's 8 billion people on the planet. You don't think there's another million, 5 million, 10 million people that are experiencing the exact same thing as you? It's just, how do you respond to it? This is the worst thing in your life, but for somebody else, this is a blessing. They're learning, oh man, this is getting me through it. Man, I love the adversity. They're going to get through it a lot better than you will unless you learn to change your emotional response to things, ladies and gentlemen. That's my encouragement to you today. That's what I'm going to push you to do. The things that are triggering you, the people that are kind of just, you know what I'm talking about, right? The people that just get in your mind and get in your head and they throw you off. Let's work on how to take back our power. Let's take back our power and say, hey, those things don't control me. I'm going to be diligent and intentional about my emotional responses. That's how we do it. I'm glad you're doing the hard things. Mel Robbins said it. I'm glad you're doing the hard things. I'm glad you're doing the annoying things. I'm glad you're doing the boring things. I'm glad you're doing the weird things to take your life to the next level, because that's what's required, ladies and gentlemen. I love you guys. I want you to win. You deserve to win. Your families deserve to win. People are counting on you to get this information and apply it in your life. You have to grow the capacity to handle the life that you're asking for. And if you want the good life, great relationships, great health life, great spiritual life, great financial life, right? You want all of the things, you have to grow. You have to grow your capacity to handle that. And that's what this process is doing. Go out today, do something that challenges you, do something that pushes you out of the comfort zone. Pay attention to your emotional responses and know that you are in control. That's how you know you have power, ladies and gentlemen. Enjoy your Wednesday. I'll see you guys back here on Friday. Take care. Have a good one.